Well, hey guys, how you doing? Stephen and I were hanging out today, and we have an opportunity to talk. And as we were talking, we've noticed that there were similarities of friends of ours and people that we know that are really going through a really tough and difficult time. And we thought we'd share with you maybe some things that could help as we're going through these seasons. It's good to know that you got people that are walking it through with you at times, and sometimes you feel very alone. And maybe this could be an encouraging word for you today, just to help you out.
Yeah, I like to take note of when I hear similar circumstances from several people, all within the span of a few hours or a couple of days.
Yep.
I like to take a step back and think, man, this is probably indicative of what's going on with a larger group of people, because one of the classic examples or accusations of the enemy that comes in is it's just you that feels this way.
That's right.
And so one of the reasons even for putting this out today is because there may be somebody out there that's going through some of the similar issues or accusations that we've heard from friends over the last couple of days, and maybe some understanding or clarity will come to your situation or circumstance. The couple of voices really come on kind of like Job's friends did.
Yeah.
Job was in a spot where what we consider to be favor and what Job considered to be favor looked very, very differently.
Right.
And he was in a tough spot where horrific things happened to him in his natural life. And then his friends gathered around him, you know, and it was great that a group of people came to him in his time of need. But what they ended up communicating to him was kind of the opposite of what he needed to hear in that moment.
Sure.
And really, when you take time to study it, it really came down to main accusations about things that he must have done wrong in order to be treated this way. That the law of sowing and reaping, that he must have done something bad in order for bad things to happen in his life,
Right.
or that he needed to repent because he must have sinned or made a mistake that angered God,
Right.
in order for God to be treating him this way. And Job had a real decision to make after being beaten down by his natural circumstances. Then his friends come over and beat him on the head and say, "You're a bad person. If you were a righteous man, you would have been treated a different way." And he's left with this decision: do I listen to the voice of accusation that even comes through familiar or what should be friendly sources, or do I hold true to what I know about the nature of God?
Yeah.
And there are many of you out there that may be going through similar accusations. The thought of, "Lord, why? I've been after you, I've been pursuing you, I've been faithful in trying to be obedient or take steps in what I felt like you have communicated to me. Why am I reaping what seems like negative or bad things when I feel like I should be reaping positive things?" And the key is to remember that it's not based off of something that you've done wrong. It's actually been the Lord coming close to you and the enemy actually solidifying or strengthening your relationship with the Lord.
Yep.
Because adversity and trial is the proving ground that tests any relationship.
That's right.
It's great for Mark and I to hang out when everything's going right. When we agree with everything.
Right.
But when it really tests our relationship is when something bad happens, or maybe we disagree, or we have a falling out. Then we have a decision to make: is our relationship more important than the event or situation or circumstance that went on in our life?
And that Job himself was actually the reason why he was going through it was that he would actually prove to God that his relationship with him was sound.
Yeah. And so we've heard from several people, and in a moment of honesty and vulnerability, and that's the thing that I love about moving towards relationship, the family that you hear us talk about, and really developing those real connections with each other, is when you're walking with someone that you trust, then you can just be honest.
That's
and
right.
You can come in and you can say, "You know what, I'm having a really tough week," or "Right now I don't like where life has me, where I'm at in my life."
Yeah.
And to even say something like, "You know what, I'm having a hard time engaging with the Lord because of the feelings and the emotions that are coming up that are at enmity with what I know about the nature of Jesus."
Right.
And then having that decision that says, "I don't even know how to have the energy to approach the Lord right now because I just feel worn out and done." And so then, like in Luke 5, when the crippled man who wasn't able to get to Jesus on his own, four men had such a relationship and love for that paralyzed, crippled man that they were willing to even go
That's
up
right.
on the roof of a
Yep.
crowded house and tear the roof off so that that man could have an encounter with Jesus.
Yep.
And if you feel like you're all alone right now, or you're paralyzed, or don't have the strength to connect and move towards Jesus on your own, there are people that care about you and that love you enough that if you're willing to be honest about where you are, they will
right.
come and surround you, and they will help carry you into an encounter or an experience with Jesus.
Right.
And that then in turn, Jesus came in and to that paralyzed man said, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." And out of that encounter with Jesus, he actually had the faith to believe that in those words was everything that he needed to move forward.
That's right.
Jesus didn't lay hands on him necessarily, didn't empower him, didn't give him new shoes or anything. He just simply spoke the word, and the faith of that man to access that word and believe that in it contained the power to move forward,
Just believe it.
caused him to get up and keep moving. And so that is the word to continue to move forward, is to hear Jesus coming to you and saying, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." That in that you have the ability to stand up and continue moving on even in the face of adversity.
Hence, if one is weak, another can be strong. I know that not too long ago I had an episode. It was real interesting. As I was going about my life every day, sometimes life just gets mundane, and you're going through life. And for me, to say mundane, you have to understand I'm a very busy guy. There's a lot of things that go on between children, youth, church, pastoring, and all the things that I do. But I found myself inside my room alone with the Lord. And as I was sitting there, it's like the presence of the Lord just came into the room, and he began to just speak to my heart. And he wanted to remind me to reflect upon him, to know who I really am, that he's the mirror. And as I looked at the Lord in this time, I had the Word of God beside me, I'm in his presence, I began to realize, wait a minute, I kind of forgot what manner of man I was. I looked into the mirror and then dimly walked away from it for a season and forgot what manner of man I was. Was I in sin? No. I don't believe I was doing anything rebellious. I think what happened was life just came along, and I started working things out in my own strength. This independent part of me just started trying to come alive a little bit, and I started handling things because my strength actually became my weakness in some of those moments. And here I am, not even realizing why I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling a little like I don't feel the the abundant life that I was promised. I'm feeling a little mundane. I'm feeling like I'm not really checked in with the Lord properly. And all it took was for him to come into the room for a moment with me and say, wait a minute, the reason why is because you got your focus off. It wasn't that I was trying to be doing something wrong. It was just I got my focus off the Lord because, like you just said, all I had to do was look and gaze upon him again, because what you behold is obviously what you become. As the Lord came into the room, I beheld him. The Word of God was right beside me as it's just coming alive. And I took a breath and I realized, oh my gosh, I kind of forgot what manner of man I really am. This true nature that I have within me that he paid for, that I can receive, that I forgot about that. And people come along to help us, to encourage us, to remind us who we really are. And that's where the relationship side of that is. Now, for me, it was an awesome experience to have the Lord do it, but I know how important it is for people to come beside me and to encourage and to edify me so that I can get myself back in alignment with the Lord, so that I'm not walking this thing out of my own strength, trying to figure it out on my own. And, sometimes when we get really strong, we don't want anybody around us. We want to do it ourselves. We have something to prove. But when I find myself becoming more vulnerable and saying, hey, man, I'm going through a hard time right now, someone please come help me, that opens up the door of vulnerability, and the Lord just moves in that place so easy, and he brings understanding when I need it. And I think it's not about trying to fix people. I think it's just trying to love people, right where they're at.
Okay. And can you imagine what Job would have felt if his friends had come and not tried to give him all the solutions of why they thought they could diagnose the cause and effect relationship of what he must have done in order to deserve this.
Yeah.
When you're broken and beaten down, you probably know from a knowledge standpoint the steps that you're supposed to take, the things that you're supposed to do, But when you have those feelings and those emotions, it's a lot harder to put those things into practice, even if you know the right answers.
Exactly.
And the last thing that you want is for a bunch of people to come along and tell you, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you shouldn't be doing that, and you just want to
do all over you,
and you just want to strangle those people. And thank God, at this point in my life, I know that it's from a well-intentioned heart of wanting to help.
Sure.
But the beautiful part of what you're talking about in remembering who you are and what your true nature is at the end of Job in chapter 42, we see that he begins to no longer consider his own situation, but he actually sees, it says the Lord was angry with his friends for the ways that they misrepresented the heart of the Father.
Right.
And how they communicated something about the Lord that was far less than who he really was.
Yes.
But Job, now looking outside of his own life and seeing that his friends were in need of help,
right,
it says that he reached out and he prayed for his friends so that their relationship with God could be restored.
That's right.
And there's a beauty in no matter what kind of hardship, no matter what kind of difficulty you're personally going through, if you can turn your eyes from your own situation and get away from being self-focused on even the bad things that really are happening to you, and you start to look out with that the eyes of love and that compassion that flows towards other people, that if you start ministering to the needs of other people, you'll find that those things that you thought were really bad don't matter to you as much anymore. And you can see that in the end of Job, again in 42, that after he prayed for his friends to be restored, that's when everything began to be restored back to him as well. And so, when we find ourselves in those situations where we're tempted to get introspective, to get self-focused on, why God, why me, and you can take on that pity or that feeling bad or that you deserve something better, if we begin to look outside and see the areas that we can begin to minister and impart God's love to other people, we'll actually see the very things that we are concerned about being taken care of by the Lord.
And one of the things that we talked about earlier, I think is really key on that, is there's no shortcut.
Right.
And so the process that we're going through, that the hard times we're walking through, that's why the body was designed. The Lord made it so it would edify. That the gathering of the saints would come for the edification of the saints.
Yeah.
And to edify each other, because as we're going through the process, we need other people around us to edify us, not tell us what we're doing wrong, how to fix it, but truly come alongside us and edify, in love, unconditionally. Because we were talking about earlier how, sometimes we want instant deliverance. We want our pastor, and we want somebody to come put your hands on me, and I need deliverance now. But the reality of it is, I've gone through seasons that's taken 6 months or longer sometimes, could be years, that the Lord is trying to work something in me that he wants me to discover, that's a part of him, and it's butting up against something that's contrary to that truth. And so it could take time, and the Lord will have all kinds of circumstances in your life because he loves you so much, he's not going to leave us that way. Right. And we need other people just to help us walk through those difficult times, because there's no shortcuts during this process sometimes. Now, don't you love it when the Lord comes along and all of a sudden you get prayed for and you say, oh, I got delivered and I'm excited. But what we don't realize, the person who prayed for him isn't really all that in a bag of chips sometimes, because it was in the years of making the Lord has been behind the scenes doing things to get you to a place where you can receive this one time in the timeline of that deliverance, but we don't really realize what it took to get us there. So it's not always going to be an instant pop. Someone prayed for me, I got delivered, because the Lord knows he's delicate with us. And there's issues that are deep-rooted sometimes that are in here, and the Lord is so delicate, as a surgeon's hands would be, to just take the time to help us, and he allows the circumstances around us to bring that lie to the top so it can be dealt with.
Yeah, a classic example from my own life, which is very easy. I feel fortunate that, the Lord has taught me a lot of lessons in a short period of time, which is a way of saying that I've had an accelerated program of making mistakes. But there was one instance, 5 or 6 years ago, where I was just in a rough place, and I was sitting at a Starbucks with 3 of my friends, guys that I knew. And they echoed these words. They said, man, we're going to be here for you. We're going to walk through this with you. We want to see you through this process. And I never saw those guys again or met with them anymore after that meeting. Right? Now, you have to understand that was exactly what needed to happen, because the process for me at that time was getting free from needing man's approval.
Right.
Right. So how do you have man step in and approve of you when you're trying to get delivered from needing man's approval?
Exactly.
Right? So God knows.
Yeah.
So he cuts off all of the lifelines to hold on to needing man's approval.
Yep.
And when you don't have anybody else, you're forced to actually go to the Lord.
That's right.
Right?
Who else do you have?
Right. So like you're talking about, though, there was a spot in the portion that only the Lord and you can do.
That's right.
And I went through that process, and at the right time, other people were able to come back in as key relationships and say, you know what, I've seen what you've walked through. I'm validating what the Lord has done in your life. Now let's continue phase 2 of the journey together.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of what real relationship looks like.
That's right.
The sensitivity and the discernment that your friends have in knowing this is the part that you and the Lord work out, and you don't need to get involved in that. But at the right time, you can step in and affirm, man, that's beautiful. The progress that you've made in your progress with the Lord, and the things that you've walked through, the new freedoms that you have. Now let's walk this thing out together and finish the course.
That's good, Stephen. I know for sure. For me, the process was I tried to do everything I can to take a shortcut, not realizing, because I just didn't like the pain, I didn't like the discomfort, anything that can get me out of this. But when someone came along and said, you know what, the Lord is in this, and he's actually walking you through this so that you can get to a place of freedom and victory, and there is no shortcut to that. And then I realized how important it is for me, first of all, have an intimate relationship with the Lord, like I was in my room alone and he shows up, or making sure I'm connected to the body. And the Lord can use it any way he wants. But we can't do it alone. We know that. We cannot be an island to ourselves. And if there's one thing I learned, the enemy would love to give you a brick by brick and label it for you so you can build a wall around yourself so you feel isolated and alone.
Yeah. So you may be on either side of this equation right now that we've kind of laid out, this scenario that we know people are going through. If you're going through hell and you're going through a tough time and you're not understanding, decide like Job that even without understanding, you're going to hold fast to what you know to be true about the nature of the Lord, about the nature of the Father, regardless of the voices that you hear, whether it be from family members, from friends, or even the voices that you hear from the enemy in your own head. Choose to silence those voices and press through and say, you know what, having done all to stand, I'm just going to continue to stand.
That's right.
Whether I know why I'm standing or not. And you may be on the other side where you're trying to help somebody in a difficult situation, and you may think, oh man, stepping back, I realized I've been trying to diagnose their problem for them, or I've been more of someone that's trying to be a fixer instead of just someone that's a helper and a listener. And if that's the case, just surround them, love on them without trying to fix them, because the Lord in his process will work exactly what he's trying to work in their lives.
That's good. So be encouraged, you're not alone. And we are in a season, obviously, where a lot of people have been struggling. And I know that giving is living. So it sounds like a cliche, but it's true. When I find myself in those dark hours, going to love on people, to when I say that, you understand, just to give away something that would help encourage them. I find when I give away, life comes back.
Right.
And it helps me get my head above whatever this quicksand or this stuff that's got me bogged down.
Yeah.
So we definitely encourage you to heed. I mean, or as we were talking, everything that was said today. I don't know if heed was the right word, but hey,
if it resonates
if
with
it
you,
resonates
go for
with
it.
you, great for it. But anyway, so thank you for taking time for hanging out with us today. I hope we helped you. Helped me today. I'm probably going to edit this bottom part out because I have totally tripped all over my tongue in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We may actually leave it in because...
Yeah, I mean, it could help people.
See, I'm not alone. You're not alone.
I love Mark even if he messes up the last portion of the video.
And it was doing so good, too.
Yeah. So we're good.
Yeah.
We may leave this